So I'm back here now with Jumper's EZBook 3 Pro, but this time around it's the 4th revision, so version number 4, and they keep improving on it. So all the revisions, they've made minor little tweaks and changes. This time around we have a new touchpad. It's a precision one. There's now a little tiny hatch on the bottom to easily install and upgrade an add your own SSD. It has to be 22 by 42 spec. So it should just be the 1 or 2 screws on there, and you don't have to remove the whole rear case like you did with the previous models. And there's also been a change in the BIOS. They have allowed us to now disable those power limits, so there's no need to do the hack. If you do have a previous model, then of course you can just do that software hack, but every time you reboot the system you need to reapply it. And what it basically allows us to do is exceed the standard TDP they have on there, the power limit. So doing so increases performance. It allows the GPU to clock a little bit higher. It can hold the turbos a bit longer. So it should be the fastest and best version yet of the Jumper EZBook 3 Pro, which is basically the best of the Apollo Lake notebooks that I have reviewed. No one seems to be able to come close to this one in terms of the keyboard, the full metal build, and the IPS panel it has in here. So let's check it out and have a look at those changes. So thanks to some of the guys on my website that pointed out that when they ordered from Gearbest that they started to ship this new revision. Otherwise I wouldn't really be aware of this one. So I picked this one up here for my own personal use. I sold my version 3.1 in order to get this because I want the more improved, better model here with the better touchpad and that power limit disabled. So the box looks exactly the same as the previous versions. I can't see anything marking here that is in fact the version 4. Now the specs, you probably know them, so it's got 6 GB of RAM. That is actually in dual channel, 2 3 GB chips. They're Samsung ones, 64 GB eMMC. I think it's a Samsung, but I'll take a look at that. And of course it's powered by the Apollo Lake N3450, and it has a 1080p 13.3 inch IPS screen. So no changes to the power supply here, 12 volts, 3 amps. The cord on it is not particularly long. Now you can of course source a replacement. All you need is a tip like this. So positive in the middle, negative on the outside, and it's 3mm. So the first change with the version 4 is this right here. It's a tiny little access hatch to install an SSD. So if you want to speed things up and increase the capacity, get something like this. This is a Transcend 256 GB. So it's 22mm by 42mm in length. And all you need to do is remove one screw here, another screw inside will be in there of course, fit that in, and then in the BIOS you need to go and change that over the boot order so it actually runs off the SSD. Now if you're a bit of a modder and you want to actually install a full size 2260 or 2280, then you need to remove all these screws around the outside, break the plastic that's around here. It's got like a plastic frame around in there, and you can install the larger SSDs. So Jumper made some changes to the BIOS, and that is that we can now go along and disable that power limit on there. So under the CPU settings, go along to CPU power management, and you'll find along here that it says power limit 1 enabled. If you go along and set this now to disabled, this will in turn disable all of the power limits. The CPU will use as much power as it wants. It will shorten battery life. Now there is a good copper heatsink on this laptop, so thermals, it shouldn't reach thermal throttling yet level, but it will get hotter than by leaving that on default. So if you're not happy with that and the stock performance is fine for you, then I recommend just not touching this at all and leaving it alone. Now previous models like the version 3, you could tweak the eMMC, but here you can't on this model. They've used a different grade of eMMC. I think it's no longer eMMC 5 spec. So before, what you do is go into the chipset, the SCC setting, and you change the setting to high speed 400. But I'm just going to leave it as stock there because when I put it onto 400, it gave me a blue screen. So at least on this one, or my batch, it's not going to work. One minor change here as well is they do have the latest Windows 10 image on here. So we've got English, Spanish, Russian, and Chinese as the initial languages on this Windows 10 home. Okay, so I went through all the Windows setup, of course, and I just wanted to show you a couple of things. So there is a bit of a con here that the eMMC is very poor here. This is a generic N card. In my experience, that'll be either a 4C or BWin one. I won't know until I actually take the whole back off this and physically look at it, but they don't tend to be very fast at all. So this has come at the cost of the improvements, having that precision touchpad which you can see here. It's definitely a precision touchpad. You can control all those gestures. I've been using it now just a little bit, and it is so much better than the original one we used to have that was just a standard one and quite a average poor touchpad on that. So Windows, when you first get it installed or while set up, we have 45.6 gigabytes free there. And I'm just benchmarking now the drive here to see how fast it is, and it's not looking very fast at all. But so far I haven't really noticed any slowdown getting around Windows because of this drive. So a few users in my forum have also pointed out that there is this application here that's within that Windows 10 image, Me Meng Meng Wind Clients. It doesn't look good at all, like some sort of backdoor or Trojan, but virus scan so far, it's come up clean. I think it's got something to do with this Chinese app on here. I don't know what it is. Anyone read Chinese? Well, there'll be a few of you out there. Please let me know what this actually says. And now that eMMC benchmark is just finishing up, you can see not very fast at all. It's eMMC 4.5.1 spec, and I highly recommend going with one of these, an SSD that really opens and speed things up. Not only does it give you more storage, of course, just applications load up faster, boot time slightly faster as well, and overall it just feels a little bit quicker. I have also noticed that the texture of the touchpad now is a little bit rougher here, so it's got more of a matte coating to. The other one was a little bit smoother, shinier, and that probably helps too. But overall, so far using this touchpad, really impressed with it. It's definitely so much better than the original one they used. And just double checking here with HW info that yes, the power limits were disabled. You can see along here it says power unlimited, time unlimited. So it will turbo for as long as it wants and use as much power as it needs. Okay, so there we go. That's the Jumper EZBook 3 Pro, the version number 4 or the revision number 4 that they've done on this. So they've kept tweaking and improving it, and it really is an amazing laptop for the price, considering what you're getting, that IPS panel, really good battery life. You get about 8 hours out of this. Now the Apollo Lake is not a powerhouse of a chipset, but with that power limit disabled, it performs a lot better than other notebooks out there that do not let us tweak that setting at all. The improved touchpad is a welcome change. In fact, the most welcome change there on that is the best thing they've done is get rid of that kind of crappy touchpad they had on the previous one. So a huge improvement there. Now, other things, of course, like that easy access slot just means getting an SSD in there is a little bit easier and a little bit faster. And as I mentioned, I have done a full review of this laptop, but that was the first model that was released, so this is even better now. But make sure you check that out if you haven't. Really, for the 220 or so US this is selling for, you cannot get any better. And trust me, I've tested now probably about 6 or 7 of these Apollo Lake laptops, and this one tops all of them. And if they continue with this kind of trend, hopefully the new Gemini Lake laptop that's going to be coming out next year, probably by then, that's the successor to the Apollo Lake, will be something really good, and hopefully also around this price range. Thanks a lot for watching this unboxing and just preview really of the changes that they've made on the EZBook 3 Pro.